Hey, good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. Welcome into your favorite feature of the week and mine, Trail Tidbits, with the guy, Matt Ray. Matt, we are motoring right along through the high school football season as we look at Tennessee targets and key targets and some commits, how they're faring throughout the high school football season. We're in the month of October, and then, once Halloween comes and gone, it's postseason football time, and we start talking about that, and then we start talking about signing period, and then getting these guys in for bowl practice, and then for junior days, and then for spring. I mean, it just, just motor them right along.
Yeah, man. Week 7 of the high school season in the books,
Yeah.
and some big games across the country this week. A big one in Knoxville with Bradley Central coming to town and defeating Farragut 28-20. Just a big game, and now it kind of sets up a matchup between Farragut and Maryville at the end of the year that will have postseason implications. But Boo Carter shined, Marcus Gorey shined. Overall, man, the high school football season is slowly getting away from us.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's start with the official visitors and one big time unofficial visitor from last week. Quickly, kind of talk on Daniel Hill, the running back, of course, and then Cam Mikell, and then kind of transition to Jordan Seaton. Jordan Seaton was unofficial, but that was a big time visit because he had a good time and then plans to be back for an official later this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting with Daniel Hill, a guy that you got into town on Saturday because he had a game on Friday night. But for him, I think Tennessee really, did all they could there. We'll see what happens coming out of the visit. It does feel like Tennessee's ahead of South Carolina coming out of the visit. I don't think I would have said that beforehand. It felt like an Alabama-South Carolina battle at that point. Feels like the Gamecocks have taken a step back, but it still feels like Tennessee's probably chasing the Crimson Tide in this one. The longer it goes, the better it is for Tennessee, in my opinion. I know you don't always say that coming off an official visit. Just still feels like there's work to be done there with Daniel Hill. And then with Cam Mikell, a guy that, did not have a game this week. So made it into town on Friday and got his official visit rolling then. And Tennessee was really able to make him feel like a priority this weekend. There's a comfort level there for Cam Mikell. And, Tennessee has been at or near the top of this thing for some time. Coming out of the weekend, have no reason to think any differently at this point. Texas A&M to me is the team you have to watch right now. Georgia's laying in the weeds, maybe, if you will. They're trying to get him to campus here in October to have more discussions about him potentially playing wide receiver. But we'll see if that visit comes. Cam's been pretty open in his process about everything and the way that he's handled everything. And currently, as it stands, he is only planning to see Texas A&M this upcoming weekend and Kentucky at the end of the month when they play Tennessee. Then from there, it will be a decision sometime early in November. Georgia, the home state school, the two-time defending national champions, we've said this, it seems like every week on the show for the last 3-4 weeks. You can't count them out. You have to watch them, but they're a little late to the party in terms of how they've recruited Cam Mikell, and he's talked a good bit about wanting to play offense, and they never wavered on it here until the decommitment of Nye Carr, which I think for him, answers some questions. They didn't want him at that time. It seemed like as a wide receiver. Now maybe you can repair that bridge, but we'll see. But obviously the big news coming into the weekend was Jordan Seaton, and I think that's where a lot of attention was turned, especially on the general's quarters coming out of the weekend with Jordan Seaton, just an elite offensive tackle prospect, a guy that has been really diligent in the process, and he's been trying to work something out to get to Tennessee for some time. It seemed like it would only be an official visit, but the Vols able to get him there for an unofficial visit is just huge. He had a really great time. Those around him had a really great time. Tennessee did as well as they could in this visit for Jordan Seaton. Should get him back to campus sometime next month on an official visit and have a chance to really push down the stretch heading into signing day. And obviously, you've still got a number of schools involved: Florida, Alabama, Ohio State still working some there as well. There's too many to mention that are all trying to do something with Jordan Seaton. You're not as good as he is and not getting the attention that you deserve. So a guy that, I think has real genuine interest in Tennessee at this point in the process. he told me beforehand that the atmosphere's, I've heard it's going to be cool, but I'm really focused on looking at the offensive line. Now, when he comes out of the visit, the atmosphere blew him away a little bit. He had not experienced a game day atmosphere like that to this point. But he focused on the offensive line, and the big selling point that Tennessee has right now is that they produced Darnell Wright, turned him into a top 10 draft pick, and that certainly caught Jordan Seaton's attention. But then on Saturday night, he saw John Campbell probably play his best game as a Vol. So he was really impressed with that. I think he's starting to build some trust in Glenn Ellerby as a developer. And then, he's hit it off with Boo Carter. That's a guy that has been in his ear for some time now. They took a visit to Colorado. They were together all pregame, hung out throughout the day on Saturday. And I think they relate really well. And I think that when you look at Jordan Seaton and you look at the way that he's approaching the recruiting process, you heard me say earlier that he's really diligent in the way that he does things. But he's really looking at the development, the opportunity. And I think the popular thing to say nowadays, especially in this NIL era, is it's just going to be the highest bidder, right? No, that's not the case for Jordan Seaton. He's going to have NIL opportunities wherever he goes. He's going to have early playing time opportunities wherever he goes. He's really interested in development. He's really interested in relationships with the coaches and relationships with those players around him. So, having Boo Carter in his ear consistently is something that's only helping Tennessee at this point, in my opinion.
So you bring up Boo Carter in relation to Jordan Seaton, recruiting him, peer recruiting him, doing a good job last couple weekends, and of course this past weekend while on Rocky Top. Let's kind of go into our stat portion of the mini pod here, and let's start with Boo Carter. You look at the bottom here of this graphic. If you're watching on YouTube, Boo Carter. Big Game AP was over there to watch him in Knox County, and he was playing some safety, put out some video. But on the offensive end, 50-yard go-ahead touchdown touchdown reception for Boo Carter. Just continues to make plays on both ends of the field.
Yeah, nice one-handed grab for Boo Carter. And, when AP asked him about that on Saturday, just kind of said, hey, I could see it was overthrown, and I've got gears in me that most people don't even know about. And I could see that it was a little bit over my head, and I hit another gear. I went and got it, and ultimately it ended up being, the deciding factor in a one-score ball game against Farragut. Kept Bradley Central undefeated. Just a guy that, man, he really shined last fall at CCS. He's made the transition to Bradley Central and has probably only played better football on both sides of the ball. A real candidate, if not the favorite, in my opinion, to be Mr. Football in Class 6A this fall.
All right, let's continue on. Look at a Tennessee commit, 5-star Mike Matthews, 6 receptions, 168 yards, and 50% of his receptions were for 6. 3 touchdowns on the day for Tennessee's 5-star Mike Matthews.
Big game for Mike Matthews as Parkview bounced back with a win over South Gwinnett. Mike Matthews making the most of his opportunities. Again, Parkview pretty heavily run-based, but they started to throw the ball some here in the second half of the season. Incoming transfer at quarterback ahead of the season seems to be settling in, so that obviously helps some things. Everything's not going to be smooth in that right away, but to have Mike Matthews there as a security blanket should certainly help anybody. But for him, 3 touchdowns, 6 receptions, 168 yards. He's already rewrote the history books at Parkview and is continuing to do so. He was really pleased with his performance on Friday night. I spoke to him about it on Saturday, and he's not a guy that, really gets overly excited about anything, but he was pretty pleased that 50% of his catches went for 6 and almost 200 yards.
All right, so another solid performance for Mike Matthews. Let's go to a guy that we haven't really talked about much this season, but just continues to produce and produce and produce. That is linebacker Jordan Burns. 10 tackles, 2 TFLs, a 92 yards rushing with a touchdown on the offensive end as well. Tennessee's linebacker commit, Jordan Burns.
Yeah, Jordan Burns, when I sat down with his coach in the summer ahead of Jordan's commitment, we talked a lot about Jordan's game and the developmental side of things. And Jordan didn't make the switch at Pace Academy to inside linebacker until late in the fall last season. And primarily as an edge, a guy that was, being used as a rover, moving all around. You can see that right here in this film, and he was productive. But as a inside linebacker, has just really hit everything that moves, continuing to process better, see the football better, and diagnose the play. He's just been really productive for Pace Academy this fall. And then on the other side of the ball, just toting the rock, 92 rushing yards and a touchdown, and a guy that is really just kind of starting to scratch the surface of his potential, if you will.
All right, so Jordan Burns, a guy, again, like I mentioned, we haven't really talked about a whole lot, but just continues to produce and produce and produce. A big reason the bye week is so critical in terms of recruiting is because it's a chance for Tennessee's coaching staff to get out and see some junior college prospects. Those guys play on Saturdays. Tennessee won't play on Saturdays. So who are some guys? I'm going to look at three guys right here. And we look at the graphic here. Only two guys are on the graphic. But you got Jamal Wallace, a couple of junior college defensive linemen. Jamal Wallace, 4 tackles, a sack. Kamari Copeland, 5 tackles, and Breen Taylor is another defensive lineman that we're going to highlight here today. How big is it for Tennessee to go out and see some of these guys, maybe these guys this weekend, but of course, junior college, very much a big part of recruiting as well, still is, even though you have the transfer portal era.
Yeah, I think it's big for Tennessee. They've had these guys on their board for some time. The junior college film lined up to start the season. You kind of treat it just like you treat the high school film, right? If you like somebody, but you really haven't had a chance to see them in person or get them to campus, you want to see if that film continues to stack up. It did for all three of these guys that we've mentioned here, and Tennessee offered all of them. Now the task is to get them to campus. Yeah. At some point. Jamal Wallace here expected to take an official visit to Tennessee the weekend of November 18th. At this point, Kamari Copeland and Breen Taylor are working to make their plans for an official visit. But Tennessee will have the opportunity here on this bye week, as the recruitment of all three of these guys have heated up, to get out and see them, stand on the sidelines, watch their game, and that makes an impression on these kids, right? You can't have communication with them, but you can go out and watch them, and it makes an impression that you're going out during your season to see me play out here at Iowa Western. Like there's not a lot of people coming out there, but I think in a lot of ways, it's big for Tennessee to get out and see those guys and further solidify how they feel about those evaluations. And then, it's just an opportunity. Every time you can be there for a guy, see a guy, it just goes a lot further in the recruiting process. So a big opportunity for Tennessee with those three guys throughout this week.
All right, so I know you guys are going to have a whole lot of more information, Mailbag Podcast, the War Room later in the week, but maybe here earlier in the week, do you know kind of where some coaches might be going this weekend? And we talked about junior college, but pretty much the expectation is you want to take advantage of this weekend off, get out, see some players, see what's going on, and so we'd expect Tennessee coaches to be all over the country.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well right there. I just think Tennessee coaches are going to hit the recruiting trail really hard this week, probably multiple spots as they can. We expect them to go out to California, see a new tight end that they're looking at in 2024, Cole Harrison. You expect them to see the junior college prospects. But, I really think you're going to see a lot of work from Tennessee here this week, and we'll have a lot more on that in the War Room on Friday.
He is Matt Ray, Trail Tidbits, every Wednesday right here at Volquest.com and Volquest on the YouTube channel. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like this video if you're watching on YouTube. Get in front of more Tennessee fans, and stay subscribed wherever you get your podcast. Trail Tidbits every Wednesday with Matt Ray. Matt, appreciate it as always, man. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds good, man.
All that and more right here at Volquest.com.